showed the Anunnaki bloodlines, and that's why they were able to they were in complete control. The Vatican didn't do anything against them. They brought in the Vatican, the banking system, became extremely powerful. And then when the French king tried to go against them, enough of them escaped over to Scotland. And they kept the Templars going over there, and possibly they came over here off Nova Scotia with Oak Island.
Okay, because the Stone of Scone ended up first in Ireland in 583 BC, and then it went to Scotland for 1,000 years, and then it didn't get to England till the 1200s. And that represented the covenant of the Anunnaki with the patriarch Jacob. Right.
Then you also had the Illuminatis, started off from the Templars, the Hospitallers. They became the Knights of Malta, and that's what drove me nuts when we were over there for 2 weeks. I kept seeing that cross everywhere, and then I finally saw it on a Anunnaki wall carving. Whoa, and then
that's up in Switzerland also.
Yes, and also here in America.
Yeah,
they have the Knights of Malta over here in America, and the Templars are over here. But they're very quick. And then there was the Freemasons. They also were an offshoot from the Templars, and there's with all that ancient knowledge that's been supposedly handed down over the centuries.
But kept secret from the people.
But kept secret from the people, exactly. Now, let's see. In Search of Aliens, they went to a Templar. A big Freemason thing back east, and so did that bald-headed guy with his decoded shows. They went back there, and I'm seeing the same type of stuff on the walls, but you can't really see it clearly. See, because in the Lost Book of Enki, when they had complete control with all the Anunnaki, they mentioned in there that they first started the all-seeing eye. It was some type of it doesn't describe it exactly, but it's some type of device or technical type stuff where they watched everyone and everything, and that all-seeing eye went into Egypt and Ra. And then that's also on our dollar, on our bills and stuff, and
of course.
Also all
this is a slave planet, and it's been totalitarian since the beginning, and enough already.
Oh yeah, exactly. So the bloodline they found, and that's why all this stuff has been going. The Anunnaki put themselves into all the different bloodlines that became rulers and stuff. And they've been slowly guiding the human race, exactly as Enlil and Enki said in the Lost Book of Enki, because they themselves feel there's a higher power above even them, and that higher power was supposedly making them, you're not going to keep these guys as workers anymore. You're going to let them evolve. And that's what they've been doing over the centuries. It's very clear.
You have this fight between keeping people slaves or letting them evolve and letting them have some freedom. And that started at the beginning, and it's been coming down all the way to today. And so anthropology and history and archaeology are corrected by their peer review boards in order to keep their histories within 6,000 years, to keep all of this ancient history out of textbooks and out of libraries.
Exactly. And they actually tried to reinstall some of it during the Egyptian 18th dynasty with Akhenaten, because every time you see the pictures of Akhenaten, him and his wife, with those elongated skulls, and the babies, they're all praying to, what's that on the wall? everyone is looking at. It's been so badly chipped away, you can't really see what it is. In my opinion, that's Nibiru, because Nibiru was here back around 1558, right there at the end of the 17th dynasty, and then Akhmos the first, which some people believe is actually Moses, because Akhmos is not an Egyptian name. Moses, Akhmoses, possibilities. It's been thrown around several different times.
Do you think that they were a different species? Now we have Emily here. These, they call them Homo capensis. They have the larger skulls. They're doing genetic testing. They think they're a different species.
Well,
Do you think they Anunnaki, or were they on Nibiru? Were there more than one species?
Well, the Anunnaki don't have the same bone structure of the skull as these other ones that you just, I don't know the name for, the ones with the three skull bones, where the Anunnaki, like us, only have two.
Right. Called Homo capensis, and they say they are different species.
Yeah, completely different species. Yeah.
Say this species came here, then this has them coming down from, Sirius or something, as extraterrestrial. I'm asking each individually, Emily first, where do you think this Homo capensis came from in your research or your ideas?
I don't know where they came from, but I know that the Syrians who have come here have been very fierce people, much more fierce than the Anunnaki. And of course, the Alpha Draconi, the reptoids, are predatory, directly predatory. They eat us. So what has had to happen in this planet's experience is that the innocent, decent, cooperative, naive people who were annihilated at Lyra for the food of the Alpha Draconi have come here to learn how to deal with deceit, with predation, with parasitism. That's why we're here, to learn how to deal with these conflicts. And so the whole mess, as heart-wrenching as it is and as exhausting as it is, it's school for us to learn how to keep the predators and parasites and ETs who are actually dangerous to us at a distance. That's what this is for.
Now, Georgios Sikoris, he stepped into it really big in one of the shows from In Search of Aliens. He went to Malta, and over there, he had a rare thing happen. He asked them about the elongated skulls, which they had found in the Hypergeum when they first started to clean it out. Now, in the Malta Museum, the woman that was in charge only showed Giorgio about 6 or 8 of the different skulls, which they had taken photographs way back in the early 1900s, and then they totally hid them. That's why when my wife and I went to the Hypergeum, it never existed, but here he is on the show looking at him. Now, almost all the skulls look like they could have been human but enlarged, but there was one skull that did not have that long line going down from the forehead down to the back of the head. It was completely different. And
that's
that one
DNA
all by
change.
itself.
That's a DNA change.
Well, they've been touched so many times over the years. They actually put the skulls back together, I guess, with glue, and then they put plaster inside. So the woman said that there would possibly be no way to do any type of DNA-type tests on the stuff without destroying them. And Georgia was going to keep looking into it.
Well, it wouldn't hurt to destroy one, just so you could know about the rest of them.
Well, the rest of them were the basic and long. See, human skulls, they have a suture that goes down the top part of the skull from the forehead backwards.
Yes.
And as a young kid, they're open and they're slowly fusing. Right, and at a certain point they come really close together and they basically fuse, but you can see the line. This one skull did not look human. It did not have the suture going across the skull like a human skull would.
Well, I used to show very, very anomalous skulls that were too wide or that had horns. There was a lot of anomalous skulls they've found, but this one race apparently had quite a number of participants on this planet in those royal lines.
Right. Now, I did look into that, and I was told that only in the Mediterranean, well, they weren't really touching the other ones down in Peru or everywhere else, that there was a race that had, or they did it themselves, where they made their skulls elongated with like boards across the top of the head, but they weren't really, we possibly here and there, but
there's a
there in the
difference
Mediterranean.
In the skulls being shaped and the skulls. There's a difference, complete difference. They can tell the difference between the ones that are being artificially shaped and the real ones. They're different.
Well, you can't make it bigger. You can't make it.
Right.
You can make a skull look square, but you can't make it any bigger than it was.
Right, and a lot of the ones that were found over in Peru, they've actually been shown to. Sorry.
They were people who bound their heads were probably trying to emulate the gods or the royals, and that's why they did it, because their child was greater, rewards or creation in life. But that's probably they couldn't fake it genetically in the actual structure of the skulls. And
right.
Then these are
but some of the skulls over in Peru. I'm sorry. The skulls over there, they actually have tested them one way or another, and they are actually larger than what a human skull would be if you did that type of process. So these were they were a hybrid type thing where they actually would have had a larger brain inside that skull.
All right, I have a question about the prison planet. To shift topic here. And you can, and listeners, you can Google these skulls. And here's an initial DNA analysis of Parappa's elongated skull, released with incredible results. I'm going to put that up on the page for today that I'm creating for this show on Aquarian Radio. But we're talking about this is a prison planet. I interviewed about a month ago Lawrence Spencer, who had the report from the nurse that was at the Roswell crash, and the nurse interviewed Errol the Gray. And so there's a whole book on this and a bunch of YouTubes on Errol the Gray's interview and what she said. And she said that this planet is a prison planet, and it's kind of being used like a Botany Bay colony where all the undesirables of the old empire are here, and we're in a matrix. We're in a cycle of birth, life, and death. And some of her people, which is the Dominion, came here, didn't realize that this was property of the old empire. So there's two factions. Goes back to the war, right? And they settled here, about 3,000 of them. They had a colony up in the Himalayas, and then they got killed. And so their people are stuck in this cycle. And so and there's some mechanism. Anyway, it's a long, elaborate story, but it does talk about the prison planet, and it correlates with one of the things that I got in a past life years ago, 20, 30 years ago. I did a past life regression, and I found that this was a prison planet, and I started crying in this hypnosis session. So back to Emily and then back to Bob. What do you think about that? Is this a prison planet? Who's making it a prison planet? Does it go back? Errol said that she's billions of years old, has had millions of incarnations, and then, this is the place where we have amnesia, but most other species don't have amnesia. But I think the Anunnaki did because they weren't sure who the creator of all was, just as